Have you ever considered your palette and its organization and whether it's hindering your painting process or helping it? I'm going to share with you my palette and how I organize it, and most particularly and importantly, why I organize it this way, in order to shed light on the value of having an organized and orderly palette in the painting process. My goal is not to have you copy my palette and even my organization exactly, but just to let you in on my thought process and why I do this so that you can find an organization for your palette that works best for your painting process. The palette is the brain of the painting, and if the palette is disorganized, there's a almost 100% likelihood that the painting will be disorganized. So let's jump into how and why I organize my palette the way that I do. Here's how I have my palette organized, and I've had it this way for the last several years. Here's why having your palette and your pigments placed in a consistent manner is so important. It removes and makes space in your brain for all of the other things that you're considering while you're painting, and makes it so that you can reach for the color that your mixture or your painting needs without thinking about where is it on the palette and fumbling around. I like to think of it like this. It's akin to working in a kitchen that you have cooked in for 20 years. You know where everything is and you can just go through the process, versus the kitchen of the house you just moved into and you can't remember where the spatulas are or where the blender is. So you're constantly going back and opening different cabinets, and it retards the process significantly. It's also helpful to have a very well organized palette for instances where you're working with low light, or you are working at a nocturne, painting at night, and enables you to go to those different mixtures without having to have a flashlight and shine. Where did I place my yellow this time? Where on earth is this? You just, after years of working with this ecosystem of sorts, you can just turn to the colors that you need. So I place my white up here in the corner. I use this Rembrandt titanium white, so that as a mother mixture, and as I'm mixing along, I can just bring it out and sort of create this overall mixture for whatever it is I'm painting. If it's a portrait, I'll start my skin tone here. Some artists I see even leave, little marks as they're painting to show where this is coming from. I haven't found that I need to do that, but I really enjoy having my white up here in this corner. It's also a color that I use more of than any other color usually, so there's a lot of space for it to be up there. And then coming around, let's start with this top bar. I put my yellows and my reds up here, starting with this cadmium lemon. Let's get this palette ready to paint. This would be my cool yellow next to my warm yellow. I have a split primary palette, and by having the palette organized this way, I can be working on my painting and think, oh, I need to take this mixture yellower, but a cooler yellow, and immediately just go right up there and add it into the mixture, again, without having to take extra time or extra brain power to locate where it is on the palette and mix it into the piece. You might think that this is a little overkill, but there's enough to consider when you're painting that eliminating extra noise is so invaluable, so that you can really focus on all of the other factors of the piece that you're juggling while working from life or from a photograph, painting in general. This is my raw sienna. Then I come around, I don't actually need to add any more of this cadmium orange. I just recently added cadmium orange to my palette after testing it out for a little while. Usually my testing out area is over here in this corner, and it just got adopted into the fold as a permanent color. Next, I've got my cadmium red. I've got a very warm red with this cadmium red next to my cool red. I either use permanent matter deep or alizarin crimson, depending on if I want a more strongly chromatic or slightly less pigmented color. And then at the end here, I have amethyst. I have enough amethyst, so I don't need to squish it out. These up here are all of my very most warm yellow reds, and then this purple here at the end. And it just feels so natural as I'm mixing. I know where to go, so that again, it's just muscle memory so that I can focus on the rest of the painting. Coming down this side, I have it organized from transparent oxide red to burnt umber and raw umber. I have this in a descending order of warm to cool. Transparent oxide, very warm. Burnt umber, a warm brown, and raw umber, a cool brown. So depending on what I'm looking for, do I want to warm up this mixture with raw burnt umber or cool it down with raw umber? I always know where it is. They look almost identical to each other, so keeping that organization, again, it just is going to streamline the process. Then I have ivory black. Again, we're just getting cooler and cooler and cooler. King's blue and ultramarine. And then I do get a little warmer down here at the bottom with my sap green and viridian. And I'll say it one more time. Having an organized palette is going to help the painting process to flow more easily. Painting is difficult enough on its own without adding extra roadblocks. The final thing I will say about your palette is a piece of advice that was given to me by one of my mentors, C.W. Mundy, and it is to paint like a millionaire. Squish out large piles of your paint. Again, your palette is your brain. And if your palette is disorganized and there's colors everywhere and they are running out but you're not replenishing them, your painting will reflect that chaos. And painting like a millionaire means squishing out large piles of paint so that you have a lot of pigment to work with, and keeping those paint piles replenished throughout the entire duration of the painting process. My goal with sharing my palette with you is not to have you copy the placement of my pigments exactly, or even adopt all of my same pigments and their brands. It's to encourage you to build a system of organization for your palette that you repeat consistently in order to build muscle memory at the easel. This muscle memory will aid you significantly as you put in the hours and work with intention. It's not going to pigeonhole you into a specific set of pigments. Again, don't have to copy mine exactly, or even the organization that I have. Find a system that works for you and repeat it consistently. Free up that space in your brain to juggle all of the other factors we're thinking about when we're painting in order to streamline your growth as an artist. This topic of pigments and palette organization is just one of the many topics we're talking about together inside the Broadcasting Brushers global art community. There are over 60 artists coming together, painting together live via a 4K resolution live stream twice a month, and sharing again about their pigments and their organization of their palette, what surface they're using, what's working, what's not working, painting together, encouraging each other, and growing together. We are painting twice a month, as I said, live. There's full replays in case you can't make it, and you can check it all out on Patreon. I hope you will consider